Hello, my friends. My name's Ryan Freeman. Welcome to episode 7 of my first backpacking trip to Europe. This is going to be the episode where my best friend Paul and I say goodbye to my dear Uncle Bob. Now, I've given him a hard time in the previous episodes, but I do want to say that he was our gateway into a new life, into this fantastic adventure we were having in Europe. But there was enough tension. I mentioned the swim in the last episode, that we were ready to go. He took us to a swimming hole in, I think, the Italian part of Switzerland. It was a gay swimming hole, nothing against gays, but there were a lot of dongs flapping around in the wind, including his own. But it was a beautiful swim, nonetheless. And we also participated in a soccer game. They call it football in Switzerland, with some of the locals in Wengen. And Vecchus, actually, and that was kind of cool. I scored a goal, had a hamburger, had a sort of a political debate with some Swiss guy who actually was really angry with the U.S. In fact, I should just say that actually there were a lot of Europeans who were happy that they were meeting Americans, but there were also a lot of Europeans who were a little angry with what we were doing in the Middle East at that time. This was 2003. And then also I met a beautiful, wonderful Swiss girl who was my perfect type, named Rebecca. Her and her friend bought us beers and got a little nice romantic good night with her. And we exchanged postcards years later, but that fizzled out, just like a lot of relationships that you meet on the road. So that was sort of our ending to Switzerland. But the big German guy, Joe, that I mentioned in episode 6, Paul swim across the Lake of Lucerne, the big German guy that we met, he told us, you guys got to go to Greece. We were thinking about going to Spain and running with the bulls. Just one of those iconic, things to check off of your bucket list. And we were young and thought that would be fun. He said, forget about Spain. Spain's great, but Greece is where it's at. So we decided to go to Greece. Uncle Bob and Aunt Rose said goodbye to us at the train station in the Italian part of Switzerland, where we boarded a train that we thought was headed to Florence. But unfortunately, it wasn't, actually. Maybe it was. I don't know. But when the conductor saw our ticket, he said, you're on the wrong train. And he gave us the big boot. He kicked us off at Bologna. I don't know if it's pronounced that way. We have a lunch meat called Bologna. It's the same spelling, I believe. Maybe it's Bologna, or Italian. Bologna. No, that's French accent. I can't do really an Italian accent or French accents. But Bologna. Bologna. Whatever. He kicked us out there. And so it was hot. Hottest summer that Europe had in like 4 centuries. We don't speak the language, the conductor's not very friendly, the train staff's not helpful. We were pretty much at a loss, and we went to the ticket booth to see, if they could help us, and, they weren't helpful at all. We're worried we're going to get pickpocketed. We had been warned that there was a lot of pickpockets in southern Europe, Spain, Italy, these types of areas. You needed to be careful. But as we were sort of filled with anxiety, our first day away from Bob, and look, we got kicked off a train, and we have no idea how we're going to get to Florence. We have no idea how to even communicate with these people. An old Pakistani man, a guy with a turban, I believe it's a turban, forgive me if I get my headdress terms wrong, old guy with a beard and some wrap around his head. He couldn't speak any English, but he looked at our ticket. He tapped us on the shoulder. He wanted to help us. He was like an angel that just appeared. He was another human, not an angel, human, who saw another human in distress, tapped us on the shoulder, saw our ticket, and said, follow him, which Paul and I did. And he took us down several flights of stairs into a subterranean metro tunnel where he bought us tickets, like a few euros, to board the underground subway to take us to another train station, which was on the other side of town. And he showed us the platform where our train would take us to Florence. So this Pakistani guy, we couldn't communicate with him at all. He didn't do anything other than just help us like an angel, but as a human. And whenever I think about angels, or demons, they usually do appear in human form. And to this day, my friend Paul and I, we always say, remember the Pakistani, because it's really sometimes, you watch the news where people aren't very friendly or helpful. Sometimes you can get a negative image of humanity and you go, oh, man, it's just people are pretty cold. But in fact, upon backpacking, we found more often than not that people were very helpful. And some people, like this old Pakistani guy, was a miracle. Also, in 2003, there was a lot of anti-Muslim and brown-skin sentiments going on in the U.S., I don't know if you remember what it was like, if you were even alive back then, but, even in college campuses, there was a lot of sort of discrimination towards people that were Muslim and people who wore headdresses. Lots of crazy bumper stickers that I would see on the road, like "Nuke the Middle East." There was a lot of hatred towards the Middle East in general after September 11th, and then we went into Afghanistan and went into Iraq. I never really had that, I sort of subscribe to some conspiracy theories. I won't go into that. That's another topic, and I haven't really revisited those. But I was very thankful to meet this Pakistani guy, to give me this worldview. And see, this is one of the very beautiful gifts that you will get from traveling. And you will get it particularly from difficult traveling and traveling where you really throw yourself to the world, like backpacking. Especially backpacking without reservations or cell phones or guidebooks, because you need to interact with the world. And you do it in this way, and it reaffirms your humanity every time you meet kind people. And I was reading recently The Odyssey. This is a book written by Homer almost 3,000 years ago. And the kindness and the hospitality that people showed strangers, even in that time, where the strangers could be brigands or rampaging war bands, the kindness and the politeness and the hospitality was, this was written by a poet. But if you do read a lot of historical novels and you read about history, there was a lot of kindness and almost manners shown to strangers and travelers. And so traveling is a great way to see how beautifully connected we are as humans, and we really got that from the Pakistani. So we got on the right train, and while we were on this train, head to Florence, our spirits were lifted. My friend Paul took out a big sack of marijuana. He had just bought, enough marijuana. I don't know how much he paid, like 50 euros. Enough, maybe more. It was pretty good prices in Switzerland at that time compared to California. He bought a lot of marijuana so that he would have plenty to smoke in Italy and Greece. And we weren't really planning to stay in Italy. We were trying to book it to get to Greece, but we wanted to see a little bit. So he had this big stash of marijuana, and he wanted to smoke. So he took his stash, it was illegal at that time in Italy. So he, I told you he's a daredevil in the last episode. So he was risking it. Probably I would have gotten in trouble just being associated with this criminal. Not that I haven't had troubles with the law and drugs, but he takes his stash to the restroom. And I'm sitting alone, and I'm bored. I don't have a Facebook to swipe through. I'm just looking out the window. And I used to like to play pranks a lot. I don't do it so often anymore, but I used to love pranking people. So I thought, wouldn't it be funny as Paul's in there in the restroom if I pretended to be the conductor? So I had saw how the conductor walks and asks for tickets. The Italian conductors were very assertive and aggressive. Maybe the Italian machismo spirit. I don't know. Maybe those were just the ones that I saw. But when they go to the restroom, they don't just pass. They bang until that person opens the door and shows them their ticket. So when I went to the restroom where Paul was inside trying to partake of his marijuana, I pretended I was the conductor, and I knocked on the door. Firm. Boom, boom, boom. And he said something in English. I don't know, just a minute. And I pretended like I didn't understand English. And so I banged on the door harder. Boom, boom, boom. Just as I saw the conductors do it before to other people. And I heard some sort of, muffled scuffle, something going on inside, and I'm waiting, and I'm going, what's going on? Why won't he open the door? And it's just me. It's not the conductor. He's not going to get in trouble. That's what I'm thinking in my head. He cracks open the door, really afraid, and he looks at me and he's like, ah! And he slams the door on my face. And I go, whoa, I haven't seen him that angry in a long time. What the hell happened? So I go back to my seat and I go, it's just a prank. What the hell? He should have been delighted it wasn't the conductor. And I was delighted that my prank worked, that he actually thought I was the conductor. So I'm sitting in my seat for a while, and then he comes back and he just sort of lays down on the seat, sort of leans up against the wall, and he's deflated, and he just... I go, what's going on, man? What's wrong? Dude, it wasn't the conductor. I pranked you. And he's like, the weed's gone. And I said, what? He said, the weed's gone. When I thought you were the conductor, I threw the weed down the shit tube. And I should say, these were not nice, really nice trains at that time. They might be really nice in Italy right now. This time, it was a pretty dirty restroom. And the toilet was just like a metal pipe that went down, and it was just crusted in poo. Sorry to be crass, sorry. But this is part of the story. So he threw the marijuana down that chute, and then when he realized, when he opened the door and saw it wasn't me, he reached his entire hand and arm all the way through to try to find the marijuana. But all he ended up doing was finding a lot of poop on his arm and hand. And then, I don't know how he washed it off, even if he was able to wash it off. I don't think he felt clean until the next time he had a shower. So he was really upset with me. But on the train, we met a guy who was studying at UC San Diego, and he was part of a study abroad program in Florence, the city where we were going, and we were saying how we wanted to save money, and did he know any like cheap hotels or hostels when we got there. And he said, guys, you want to save money, stay on my floor at my hotel room. It's a pretty nice hotel. You just sleep on the floor. I said, that's great. We go to Florence, we go to his hotel, drop off our bags. He takes us to a local bar where we're drinking beer, we're eating pizza, we're in Italy. Yay, first night away from Uncle Bob. We already have a free place to stay. We go back to his place around midnight. We're drinking a little in his room, and then he gets a call. And it's the hotel, and they know that he has strangers staying on the floor. So we better get the hell out of there. So the hotel kicked us out. And so Paul and I are now in Florence, well past midnight. I have no idea where we are. We have no map. We just followed this guy. We have no GPS. It's after midnight. And, Paul still hasn't taken a shower yet. So God knows what bacteria is crawling all over his skin. We're dirty, guys, and as well, because it was so hot and sweaty. I mean, when we got out of the train was not air conditioned. Our entire shirts were drenched, like salt stains on my backpack and all of that. Heavy backpacks. And we're like, well, this is our first night. We got a free place to stay, then got kicked out. You got shit all over your arms. We got kicked off a train. We got helped by an angelic Pakistani. Well, I don't know what we're gonna do. I thought, well, let's just try to find the train station and see if we can sleep at the train station. Train stations are open all night. So we had no idea. So we just took a guess of what direction. And we're a little scared. Like I said, we got a lot of tips, like be careful, watch your back in Italy, and watch your pocket. So we're wandering through Florence. Beautiful architecture, mind you, and I'll talk more about that maybe in a little bit. But we're just like dead tired. Our buzz, we're coming down, and when you come down from a beer buzz, you get even more tired. And we're just walking my will and my determination, though. I'm gonna find this train station. We walked for a couple hours, just in circles, crisscrossing. No one can help us. Don't speak the language. And as I'm walking, I'm just like come on, Paul, let's go, let's go. I could just feel his poor heart sinking. And he says, free dog. I said, what? He's like, I'm done. Now, when my friend Paul says he's done, he's done. There's nothing you can do. And he just puts his backpack down and lays down on the floor. We were, at that point, we were in a square of people. There was like a all-night raging party. There was a big church, like a huge church plaza, we'll say. Homeless people scattered around the area. Paul just laid down next to the homeless people on the steps of a church and just oh, you know. And I was like, no, we are not sleeping here. Italy's dangerous. We have, by the way, we have like all of our money basically in cash. Like we have some of our money, we have like most of our money in cash. Some of our money is in it in our bank, and we're going to use an ATM. But at that point, I really didn't trust electronic payments. I trusted cash. I was sort of against credit cards, even against ATM cards at that time. You know, I'm a bit of an old school kind of guy at heart, even though I actually am pretty good with technology. Anyways, that's another topic. So I didn't want to lay down in the country that everyone said you're going to get robbed or pickpocketed with all of our cash in a street where there's just people roaming, wild people. We saw a fight, a person fell, hit their head on the cement. Sorry to make that loud noise. Police came. It's homeless everywhere. It's like, this is not how backpacking in Europe's supposed to be. But Paul was done. So what could I do? So I laid down next to him and went to sleep. And then we woke up at like 7 a.m. to see this angel statue standing over right above us. And then this old homeless guy, because he saw that we just slept basically on the hard stone of the steps of the little walkway. He showed us where his cardboard stash was, like, with gestures. Use cardboard, dude. Use my cardboard for your back. Well, that was very nice. Very nice. And I was scared of these homeless people. I thought they were going to rob me. But they gave me tips on how to enjoy your night sleeping on the streets. So the next day, we, in the light of day, didn't get that much sleep, but we felt pretty happy that we got through it, that we weren't dead, that we didn't get raped or robbed. We found a hostel, and they wanted to charge 23 euros. And, you see all the typical hostel people, young people from all over the world, eating good food, having fun. And we're like, we're better than these guys. We slept on the streets. We're not paying 23 euro. A little bit of an ego when it came to traveling. Like, we were going to be the badass travelers. We're going to sleep on the streets again. So that day, we do a lot of sightseeing. I don't remember all the names of these temples and museums, but if you ever go to Florence, the architecture is spectacular. Florence was sort of the central hub of European power, I believe, through much of the Renaissance. I think it probably shifted between Florence and Rome and maybe a few other cities, but Florence had a lot of very famous artists and architects and sculptors and all sorts of political figures and banking systems and all of that happened. So it's a city that has seen a lot of wealth, and you can see that in the architecture. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You go and my first experience having awe-inspiring in some of the churches and looking at some of the artwork and just the architecture of the inner sanctuaries. You don't get that in an American church. In an American church, it's like, it's like you're like in a warehouse or just like an average building or a humble. I mean, some American churches are very tasteful. But this sort of brought you into the presence of God, which I think is what the purpose of religious buildings used to be, was like you got the effect of actually feeling like you were in the presence of God from the very building and the other things that are surrounding it, like the art or the organs and stuff like that. So that was amazing. You would just walk through a average city street in Florence, which looked nice enough, and then this massive building or a dome would loom in front of you, and you would just go, you'd gaze and wonder, because you'd never seen any building that beautiful in your hometown. or in all your travels in America. So Florence was cool. And we said, yeah, we're going to, so we got a bottle of wine, we were just drinking in the park. And then we're like, yeah, tonight we'll just find a place to sleep. So this time we decided to sleep on a bench in a park. So we found this park with a pretty cool statue of, I think it was a guy on a horse, maybe it's a soldier, I don't know what it was. And I lay down on a bench, put my backpack underneath the bench. I think I had a towel. It was so warm you didn't really need a blanket. We had sleeping bags but didn't need it. Paul laid down on a bench, and we're laying down and just sleeping, and they're like, yeah, we're badass travelers. We're badass travelers. We're not spending 23 euros to stay in some hostel. Yeah. And I wake up in the middle of the night, because you can't really get deep sleep under those conditions, and I see Paul with his backpack on, and he's just wandering to and fro around the streets. He looks worried. He looks somewhat fearful, anxious, I don't know. He was just wandering around with his backpack. He would disappear, then he would reappear. And I guess what happened was, I found out in the morning, the bench that he slept on was the bench right in front of the face of the statue. And that was a couple police officers who were making their rounds. That's their favorite bench to sit on. So they kicked him off the bench so that they could stare at the statue. That's their favorite bench. Get the fuck out, you bum, which we were. But left me alone at a bench just literally 15 feet away because it wasn't their favorite bench. So that was our experience in Florence. And in the next episode, I will tell you what happened after we left. Thank you for watching. My name is Ryan Freeman.